Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Just Learn Right TV. Abdulkadir is back once again at Comr Issues and Reality. Today, I have with me public affairs analyst, and I think, uh, can I call him a player in the oil and gas sector? So, we'll be talking about a whole lot of things, but the most bugging question in Nigeria today is the economy. And then, since the discovery in Oloibiri in the year it was discovered, I think Nigeria has depended solely on oil, almost solely on oil. We moved from agriculture to a production, but today the oil is the same thing that's bringing. I mean, that is pulling us back. A lot of things that everybody in Nigeria today is feeling the pain. The rich, the poor. I think the only cry we've not had is from the people in government. I think those ones, maybe, just maybe, they get it free. But everybody that work to buy fuel at the pump, I mean, at the pump, feel the brunt. But we'll try as much as possible to digress, see what the government is doing, see what effect it will have in the long run, in the meantime. And so and then we'll talk about history a bit, and then we connect with other countries so that it's not to domesticate I mean the issues to Nigeria alone. So we we compare likes with likes. What other countries have that we do not have, what we have that other countries do not have, and then how we can tap from what is happening in other countries. Are you welcome on the show?
Good afternoon, dear listeners. Too. Good afternoon, Mr. Abdulkadir. It's been a while.
Well, it's really well already. Let's start with subsidy is gone. But 2 weeks ago there was an headline on these days. Subsidy is gone, non-leave subsidy. And then I think on Friday I was talking to a player in the oil and gas sector. I think Friday before the last. She told me that oil price will go up, and she, in our own estimation, in Kwara State, in Ilorin, let me say Ilorin, in Ilorin, will buy it for nothing less than 750. But on Monday, what we saw was the federal government refuting the claim as if they saw, as the person and I were talking, that oil price is not going up, and there's no going back. Fuel subsidy removal. A lot of people have been saying that in 2016, the Muhammad Buhari administration removed fuel subsidy, but at the end of the day, we later realized that we're paying trillions on subsidy. So I know you understand this oil and gas sector very well. What do you think is going on? Are we back to subsidy regime?
Once again, good afternoon, dear listeners at home. I will back to subsidy regime. I will say officially, okay, with what is was presented to us in the public, I would say no. But in reality, with what is obtainable in that sector, I would say yes. Because if you look at the landing cost and the total cost of having that fuel pump at that price, you discover that it is not commemorating. You don't have the landing cost commemorating with the price you are buying. At this particular period of time in Ilorin where we are, you have it at 595 naira, 590, 600 naira. But if you look at the landing cost originally, from what is calculated, you discover that the price is above 600 naira. So who is taking care of that money? But we need to understand some certain things. In, like you have cited, in 2016, when the then government said we are removing subsidy, there are a lot of things that plays out that makes it difficult for you to actually see exactly what the price are. If you recall, at that particular period of time, there is a crisis in the oil and gas sector in the world, and the price of crude crashed. You will agree with me that once the price of crude crashed, you tend to have it lower when it comes to PMS and some other derivatives of the crude. And then when it goes up, you have it up. So it's easy for the then government to remove it because the price is actually lower. So it became difficult for them to sustain it when the price started going up. In this case, there is a difference. In this case, what we are witnessing in 2023 was not a case of a case of global uprise in the oil and gas sector. It was a case of our own policy proclamation. All right, as at this particular period of time, the price in crude in the world market is still the same thing. What you're witnessing in Nigeria is the situation whereby we're importing the refined product of the crude with with a currency that is different from ours. That is, in this case, the dollar. And then you have a government that came in place and said, okay, we are removing subsidy. Agreed. Everybody accepted that at this particular period of time, for the sustainability of the economic situation of the country, this phenomenon needs to be weed out. Now, you don't have a government after removing the subsidy saying we are floating the forex window. And if you are floating the forex window, you're saying I'm importing this good and I'm going to be buying at this rate. Okay, what rate? A rate higher than what you tend to have before you remove the subsidy. So you're combining two things together at the same time. Two things that will make the price to go higher. And what you are witnessing in the Nigerian oil and gas sector today is as a result of the forex. Because as the forex goes up, it means that the money the people that are importing the fuel into the market are importing it will increase too. Okay, compared to our own naira. And when that is happening, you don't have any other option than to have it going up. And that's exactly what you are witnessing in Nigeria today. So if you are going to situate what happens in 2016 and what happened in 2023, you're supposed to understand exactly what are the phenomenon playing out, what are the indices. So the person you talk to who probably will be talking about the forex window, because at that particular period of time the forex continued to go high. I think at the time you have it at 900, but today you're having it at less than 800, I think.
Yes,
So
790,
so that's where the problem lies. As far as the forex continue to go up, it tends to have the price of PMS in Nigeria. I want to be specific about that. In Nigeria, you tend to have it going higher. Once the forex goes down, then we expect that by law of market, the price is supposed to come down. But what we are witnessing in Nigeria is a peculiar case where when a price goes up, they forget to come down, even when the market dictate exactly what should happen. So it's a long journey. It's going to be a long journey, except we'll find a cushioning effect to our forex window and ensure that we bring into play our refineries. I think I read in the news yesterday that the Port Harcourt refinery is about producing. So I hope that we'll have some of this. Of course, the effect will be minimal, but at the end, you tend to have some certain level of influence.
Also, Comr, I don't want to go into the Nigerian refinery. Since the day I've started listening to news in this country. I've always heard about the refinery. Nothing. I've later come out to the truth about the refinery. But let's start with the basics. Let's start with what we can see right now. The estimated cost of crude oil in the Nigerian budget of 2023 was to be between 60 to 70. The crude oil price of of a barrel is more than $80 per barrel in the world market. More than $80. You know why? Saudi Arabia has decided to cut their own production because they want to auction some of their shell companies. They want to bring in new and they want to, do a sort of privatization and commercialization in Saudi Aramco. But now the price shot up because Saudi reduced their own production. But Iraq is about to start to flood the market. You know, we have Russia again. If Russia and Ukraine settles, then there will be more crude. Because why we are enjoying higher price now is because of scarcity. When the scarcity disappears, scarcity and then the scarcity is artificial, it's not natural. So that is that on the other side. But on the naira, on the fruits of naira, the last time Nigeria floated naira, floated the dollar, was during the reign of I think Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, when Sanusi Lamido Sanusi let's give it a try. Let's do it for 6 months and see what happens. After 6 months, the window was closed. That we cannot afford this. But at that point in time, we have a lot of FDI, foreign direct investment, and then maybe just maybe the low level of our HDI, Human Development Index, that began to show, and then this FDI. But I don't think we've been getting any FDI. You've seen international companies closing down, and then you've not been seeing a relax. You've not been seeing people coming in, and then if those people have been here, maybe just maybe we don't have cocoa processors anymore. We don't have all the I think Quite, I mean, in Nigeria, we consume. Should I say we consume a lot of Android phones? I don't. We've not seen any packaging company just packaging their Android phones in Nigeria, make it a hub in the whole of West Africa. Twitter is now in Ghana. All these things we normally get by a snap of finger are now running away from us. How do you think we should? I mean, we should encourage FDI so that we have a flood of dollars. So these people will bring dollar. I mean, will bring dollar in to come and buy, to come and pay people, and then we have other windows to get the dollar apart from the national reserve.
Let me say that we tried floating the dollar. I don't think that the last time we floated the dollar was during Abdulkadir Jonathan. Emefiele tried floating the dollar in 2016 and 2016, 2017. But what happened then was that exactly what is happening now. If I think where the government is getting it wrong is that, just like I was telling some people yesterday, what we are practicing is a paper economy without looking into the reality, our own peculiarity as a nation. What the government is failing to understand is that while they proclaim some of these policies, the human factor aspect of it is not being taken care of. And that's exactly the reason why they have this situation. I don't understand why the government will say, I am the one floating the dollar, and then they will be going in line with the black market price. I don't get it. If I am the government, I am the authority, I should be able to dictate exactly the price I want the dollar to be in floating it. Before they float the dollar, the CBN is having the dollar at 400 plus.
488.
Because we floated it, we decided to go with the black market rate. Why? Why did we need to do that? Automatically, if you do that, you know that there will be a surge in the pricing of every commodity in the country. That's the problem. Now,
considering the fact that we are not so much of a producing country.
Yes, you import more automatically, and the people importing, the people bringing in goods and services into the country are not dependent on any other currency than dollar. So it's your own responsibility to look for a reasonable balance. Now, this is where the problem now lies. Once the government go in line with the Bureau de Change fee, this is the problem. The Bureau de Change actually bought that dollar at higher price too, not at 488. They sell, let's take for instance, they are selling at 735 naira. They probably bought those dollars at 700. Now, you now come and say, I am floating the dollar, I'm putting it at 700. Automatically, the Bureau de Change people will take it to 800 in their own case. Once they take it to 800, it is not readily available in your own institution. People go there and buy at 800. Okay? And then tomorrow you said, okay, it is 800 there, I put my own at 800 too. The Bureau de Change people still think again and say, oh, I bought at 780 yesterday, it's not favoring me again, so I'm putting it back to 850. And that's exactly the cycle that has been happening each time we want to float the dollar. And I think that's exactly what the government needs to look into. How do we float this thing and ensure that we have a placket to ensure that it doesn't go beyond this measure? If we are not doing that, irrespective of whatever we're doing, yes, if you have FDI coming in, if you have people investing, for how long? How long do you think those things will have effect? Automatically, we are starting from the scratch again. Just like you have mentioned, in the past, you have Michelin in Nigeria. You have a lot of companies coming to Nigeria, making Nigeria a hub for other African countries. They produce and send to other places. A lot of factors play in, insecurity, energy, a lot of things played in, and some of these countries packed their loads and left. Some came in though, because you know it's a business. In business, some people try as much as they can to make sure that they exploit a crisis situation and make profit. People comes in, but is it in commiseration with our population? That's another problem entirely. What do you have as income? Can it survive your population? So all of these things, I think the government needs to sit down and have data. We are going back to the basis of our problem, data. We do not have data of exactly what is happening in the country. And I think one of the mistakes that this administration made was not analyzing the situation before making proclamation about policies, say the software subsidy, the forex window, and some other things that they've embarked on. That is now bringing some certain level of discomfort for them, even as a government too. So what I am saying in the essence is that there is no shortcut to it. Economy is something that you plan and have time frame for it to germinate. If you do not do that, there is no shortcut for it. You continue to have a situation like that. Whether we have people coming in now, I want to bet you, irrespective of the company you are bringing in 5 years, you will not have the effect. In 5 years, that's the minimum. Before you have the effect on your own currency and some other certain things that you'll be expecting from such people. So it's for us as a country to understand our own peculiarity and base our own economic policy on those peculiarities. Without that, we're going to continue moving in circle, that will be proclaiming policy today and we'll be reverting back out of that policy, just like we've been reverting out of our subsidies since.
Let's talk about you and I now, as average Nigerians. I think that oil was discovered almost immediately after, about even very close to independence. But
1956, I think.
1956, 1958, and then Oloibiri started coming in, and
Yeah.
then we have a president that said we have money. The problem is how to spend it.
The basis of our problem.
And now we had money. That the problem was how to spend it. But Nigeria are very, very intelligent people. Immediately after, Gowon, we had Meritan last 6 months. After that, we had Obasanjo. I think 2 years and some months. Then we have Shagari. During the Shagari time, that was the first time Nigeria experienced a recession, and that was the time we started talking about. Even at that point in time, we were talking about what do we call it? We were talking about multiplying our portfolio, divesting from oil,
Oh, yeah.
and then going into agriculture, which has been the mainstay of our economy before oil. But to date, we are still talking about multiplication of portfolio. It is, I think, since Obasanjo, we can say, yeah, Babangida had a very good economic team, like a lot of good economic team. Though we can talk about the hindsight, but they achieved a lot of things. Obasanjo team achieved a lot of things, but we can say that the Jonathan administration was kleptocratic, but they achieved a whole lot. But how do we think to ourselves and say that this is what? How do we choose the right leadership? Today we have Wale Edun as the Minister for Finance. He has been a finance person, but we had a former governor of I think KB State as the Minister of Budget and National Planning. We should ask ourselves, what is the IGR of KB, GDP of KB? Is it the right person to be there? Why don't we have a mishmash of technocrats and politicians? I think we have too much politician in power than technocrats, and these people, I think, a lot of these politicians have been used to frivolities. They have been used to privileges. Someone like Jason Wike with there, he has been in power since 1997. I mean, it was just since 1999. He has always been in power. Till now he doesn't know the reality of an average Nigerian person. We need to start. Shouldn't we start bringing people that know the glamour of the average Nigerian person? People that walk on the street, people that sell. They will know that this is the purchasing power of the people. This is how we should reduce it. As against people that have been used to privileges. Talk about what I mean. Dele Alake has been a commissioner since 1999. Talk about Wale do the same thing. Talk about a whole lot of them. Two times there are a lot of former governors, Wale, Bagudu, all those things people. How do we? We can give Bosun Tijani a niche because it's coming from the private sector. But how do we do this? Is this how we do a rigmarole of recycling politicians?
I wouldn't know what indices you use in measure. I want to differ a bit from the history. I wouldn't know what indices you use in measuring the Obasanjo regime and the Jonathan regime in terms of economy. Because if you're talking about economy, you're talking about something that is sustainable. If they cannot sustain, if we cannot sustain exactly what you think they achieved economically, I think they didn't achieve anything.
Okay.
I want to.
Let me just say something. Nigeria is a very complex country, and if the fact that we could not sustain the program of Obasanjo,
and that's exactly the problem. Because Nigeria is a complex country, you don't placate. You have to understand the roots and ensure that you put it so solidly behind the ground.
Should we blame the Obasanjo regime?
Of course. They started this economic mess. I'll give you an example. Obasanjo, since the return of democracy in 1999, happens to be the president that enjoys the most of the people's well wishes. Okay? because the people are not even open to the democratic system. At that particular period of time, we're just moving away from the military system. We believe we're still in that military. Nobody is asking questions. It is easy for you to put things in place to ensure that they were sustainable. Where are the infrastructural basis for us to develop as a country? We just discussed country leaving the country, companies leaving the country. When did they start? Between 1999 and 2007. Why? Because some of the things they were expecting from the government are not there. Infrastructures that they were expecting from the government are not there. You agree with me that for every nation that wants to develop, the basis for development economically has to do with infrastructure. When Biden came in as president, what was his mantra? We need to rebuild America infrastructure. So that is the basis for economic sustainability. You're talking about transportation, you're talking about energy, you're talking about whatever you can think about. These things are not there. And you will agree with me too that Nigeria, as far as I'm concerned, I used to say this, does not suffer from lack of intellectual capacity in our offices. The problem has always been the intent to actually do the right thing. The purpose, the purposeful intent to do the right thing. If you're thinking about these people, you're thinking about Dele Alake, a seasoned, a respected journalist in the information sector. If you're thinking about Bosun Tijani, we say exactly what we do. We have people in power in the last administration that were drawn from the private sector to come and serve in government. You have people like that in power.
Were they given free hands? Were they the right peg in the right office?
That's exactly the point I'm trying to make. The purposeful leadership. You see, I don't want to go into the professional career of people put in place in leadership. Okay, if you said somebody is a lawyer, they put him in aviation. It's not a big deal. You are a governor. You're looking into the security of a state. You're looking into the transportation system of a state. You are looking into their welfare. Every sector. How do you match it? You have a profession, you are a lawyer, and you are choosing to man some certain area. You employ good hands. These people have the responsibility to bring in technocrats. They are working with technocrats as civil servants. They can then bring in consultants. I understand if you go into some of this system. I'm going into what I mean by purposeful intent to do the right thing. These people give out consultancy contract to people just in the name of getting money out of it and not in the name of getting the value that they're supposed to get. That's exactly where the problem lies. Whether you are a journalist and you are putting in agriculture, if you want to achieve, you will. Okay, there are people who specialize in agriculture that you can consult that will give you the idea of how to drive that sector, and you'll be able to achieve exactly what you want to achieve. So it depends on what you are bringing in, your intent, purpose of coming into leadership. That's exactly what will determine exactly what you get out of that position. So it's all about lack of hands. It's all about lack of purpose, intent to do the right thing for the country. Somebody is in the Nigerian automobile something. It was brought in from America. A lot of them were brought in from the private sector. You've just mentioned Bosun Tijani and Comr. Okay, in the last administration, you see people like that too. Okay, probably
like Pantami.
You have somebody like Pantami. You have somebody like that guy from at the NSCDC or Nigerian counter, something like that. A lot of them came in, but how successful are they in those positions? When they came in, how did they manage the portfolio they were given?
We're talking about the political will.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm talking about their own purpose. Purposeful intent, political will to do the right thing and ensure that you put the country in the right position. So if we continue to have people who doesn't have that good intent, that just see political position as an opportunity for them to amass wealth, then you tend to have some.
A lot of them are wealthy.
It's all about you see, wealth originally is all about contentment. It's all about how much you have in your bank account, how much investment you're having. Wealth originally is all about contentment. How many of them are contented? How many of them have left the position of power without a case around their neck about corruption, about embezzlement? How many? You tend not to have 10% of people in a position of leadership before that doesn't have that in their own neck. So it's originally, and like I used to say, we cannot bring people from anywhere to come and govern the country. We have to choose within ourselves. So it now boils down on us to start reorientating ourselves about what is leadership, what is even life itself. How do people measure people's success? Is it all about the money they have, all about the value they are bringing to the table? If we can be able to change some of these things, I think we'll get to where you are.
You see, I don't want to go into the Obasanjo debate. I think maybe that will be a talk for another day. But you talked about something. As a governor of a state, you look into defense, agriculture, finances, transportation, but so much. Our governors are still stampeded on the local government sector, which is a very close, it is the closest thing to the people.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I said it depends on your intent of coming into the position of leadership. If you are coming to give the right leadership, you will give that leadership. I can mention El-Rufai in Kaduna. Till today, I don't know how much free hand the local government executives have in Kaduna.
No, you see,
but when you look,
not,
yeah,
not
but when you
we will
look,
not give him 100%.
yes,
He's the only governor in the history of Nigeria.
So
local government election and all
free and fair.
We can call it free and fair because
that's exactly where I'm going.
Opposition
parties won, not just 1, 2, 3 local governments. They won. They were sworn in. They were allowed to govern their own local government, and nobody coerced them to come and join.
We are from Kwara State.
Any other party?
Over 1,000 years, over 1,000 days. I think close to 1,500 days. We don't have local government chairman in place, and she will be dancing in.
There is no two ways to hit. It's a failure on the part of our governor. I do not want to be having a rigmarole around that. It is not. It is a minus. It is not a good thing to put around his neck. About a few months ago, they constituted the Kwasek that is going to, but up to this moment, we have not been able to see exactly what those people will be doing. But I hope we are pleading to the governor to at least allow this democratic right to be practiced.
If there is no election, it will not be.
Yeah, so they should allow this democratic right to be practiced. Allow the local government, irrespective of whoever that win, let us have that election so that we will take it out of our mouth that we do not have local government election in Kwara for 5 years. So let the governor do the right thing. It is a constitutional thing. It is a democratic thing. So I do not understand exactly why governors are afraid of having some things like that. I don't get it, because to me it's all about them getting up. You remember when there is this constitutional review about the independence of local government? What do you have? You have state legislatures voting against the independence. I don't get it.
Because they are appendages of the governors.
I don't get it. So I don't know exactly what the problem is about.
Let me give you an example. In Plateau State in around 2005, 2006, when there was ethnic and religious crisis, Obasanjo actually deposed a governor. Technically deposed the governor, and so put Chris Ali there to serve as a governor for the time, so that the things will be brought back. But as much as the end was good, the means still remains illegal bastardization on the neck of Obasanjo to date. It doesn't matter. The people can govern themselves. Why don't you have people that can be local government chairman first?
We have many capable ones. I've seen a lot of our young chap having interest in contesting for those local governments. I'm not saying you've asked me about whether we have the hands or not. I'm not saying I'm not limiting it. I'm just saying people that I knew that has nurtured the infant of governing the local government. Young people that, of course, there are a lot of old people that wants to do that, but it depends on who you're having interaction with. I have more interaction with the youths, and that's exactly the reason why I can say I know a lot of them that are capable of running the local government, that have the intent of running it. But unfortunately, we've not had that right, and I am pleading once again to the governor to please let us have that local government election so that people will take it out of their mouth and say, okay, at the end of the day, we have local government, and let's see exactly what they can do. Of course, because of the bastardization of our system, we understand that some of them too will fuck up when they get there. But of course,
We will hold them to
yeah,
account. Yes,
we'll be able to hold them. Yeah, let them bear their part.
On the other hand, on the palliatives that are being distributed by government, every government is taking. Like I was reading something with one of our reporter about a government saying that they are going to add 10% to the salaries of their states in 2024. It's not even now. In 2024, that they will put it in the budget. I think that is an emphasis government don't. I mean, we shouldn't go. And then they will add 12,000 naira flat on this. I mean, on the pensions of pensioners in the state. And then we have 1,200 bags, 3 trucks of rice, and all those things. That is where we are. China is having economic problem, and they have come out to say openly that we don't want to go into welfareism. We don't want to start sending people money, sending people food. We will work for this economy to stand. Like, why are we taking that route? I think it is a cake. These are the things that happened before Islam came.
Yesterday, I was joking with somebody, and I told that person, I said one of the most political scams that I've seen in recent time is the proclamation that somebody is prepared for leadership before he got there. And that's the truth. Nobody is prepared. When you get there, you see the reality. The reality will prepare you. And that's exactly what we're witnessing today. At this particular period of time, I can tell you categorically that the people at the ends of fear currently do not even know exactly what they want to do to some of these crises that we're facing. And that's why they were looking for those shortcuts. Just for them, for the people to say, oh, they are even doing something. If you are giving Kwara 3,000, 4,000 bags of rice, the population of Kwara, at the last time I have it, is about 3 million. How do you distribute such? How? So you automatically have a situation wherein you bastardize that thing, because you know automatically that thing will not circulate. So it's just doing something. That's what I see. They are just trying to do something. It is not that they knew exactly what they should do at this particular period of time. Just like you have said, we have tried this route in the past, and we've not seen exactly what result it brings in tangible form. They have not taken people out of poverty. They have not even fed the people they wanted to feed, because at the end you discover that this palliative will not get to the right people that actually need it. So if that's the case, why are we not thinking out of the box, just like we put it in layman's terms? Why are we still doing the same thing and expecting a different result? It's not possible. So that's exactly what I'm saying. Until we are sincere about exactly what we want to achieve in politics, in governance, we tend to have the continuity of some of this try and error approach to leadership. I was saying something yesterday. When the president said he wants to give 8,000 naira to poor of the poorest of the poor, and people go against it. People go against it, and you have to reverse yourself, saying you are not giving that money. So what are you now doing by giving the money to the governor? It is an indirect way of saying that money should go back into decentralize it. And it will not work. When people say that one will not work, this will not work too. And I was joking with somebody. I said, even if they think they must waste that money, why not do it like that COVID-19 palliative, where in Israel have the money, people assess their quota, and some people automatically will go out of poverty from that.
Yes.
It's an automatic. Yeah, it's an automatic thing. Some people will go out of poverty, because if you have 100%, 50 people will be able to sustain that money. Only 50 will be able to waste it, and then you have tangible results, output from such distribution. So why do we need to go through the distribution of cash in hand, just like we have been doing in the past? So it doesn't make any sense to me. It's a way of taking us back to where we're coming from, and I hope that when this administration is coming on board, what we have is prepared. He knows the economy. He knows exactly the problem of Nigeria. And so the expectation should be